I now give the floor to the last speaker for this morning's session, the distinguished permanent representative of Sri Lanka. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ambassador Surya, for giving me the floor. Chairman, it is said that trusting in our intuition often saves us from disaster. We have till recently been at war with our own planet, a war in which we have come to the realization that we are on the losing side. As the planet and its inhabitants experience disaster after disaster by the natural reaction of what appears to be a very angry planet. We have in 2015 declared a truce, but did not keep to it seriously. At the high level week last week, we laid the foundation at what he described at halftime of how we will declare peace in the hope that we can win the game in the second half. I hope so. We have to, however, take measures for the protection of individuals in the event of disasters, which is of utmost importance. The world we inhabit is increasingly plagued by a rising frequency and a severity of both natural and man-made disasters. And these catastrophic events not only pose a significant threat to our sustainable development efforts, but also strike at the very foundation of our societies. Mr. Chairman, Sri Lanka, like many nations, has experienced the devastating consequences of such disasters firsthand. Our island nation is particularly vulnerable to a range of natural hazards, from cyclones and floods to landslides and tsunamis. The lessons learned from these experiences have deepened our unwavering commitment to the protection and well-being of our citizens. In this context, Sri Lanka wishes to reiterate the profound significance of safeguarding individuals during disasters as a priority. It is our moral obligation to uphold human rights, preserve human dignity, and ensure the well-being of all, especially the most vulnerable amongst us. Disasters can inflict immense suffering, as we know, displacement and the loss of life, making it our duty to establish legal provisions that can mitigate the consequences. It is with this unwavering commitment that Sri Lanka lends its unequivocal support to the draft articles proposed by the International Law Commission, aiming to elaborate a convention based on these drafts. Mr. Chairman, Sri Lanka has taken concrete steps to implement legal provisions in line with the ILC draft articles. These steps include the obligation on states to cooperate with each other and international organizations, respond to disasters and imposes on states in keeping with the principles of due diligence to take appropriate measures to prevent and mitigate disasters within their jurisdiction. It recognizes the right to life, the duty to provide timely information, and the obligation to ensure non-discrimination in disaster response. We are pleased to note that it also includes the protection of vulnerable groups such as children, women, and the elderly, and persons with disabilities. Mr. Chairman, we must also take cognizance of the fact that there are several other applications on states in dealing with disaster management that arise from international law, such as treaties, customary international law, and soft law instruments, such as international human rights law, international humanitarian law, international environmental law, international refugee law, and the international law of state responsibility, the last of which imposes a responsibility on states for failing to prevent or mitigate foreseeable disasters. Our commitment is exemplified by the Disaster Management Act number 13 of 2005, which laid the legal foundation for a comprehensive disaster risk management system within our country. Mr. Chairman, we established the Ministry of Disaster Management in 2006, underscoring the importance of integrating human rights principles into disaster management. Over the last 35 years, there have been over 14,000 non-conflict disasters worldwide, resulting in more than 2.3 million deaths and affecting an astonishing 5.8 billion persons. And in the overwhelming majority of these disasters, government, civil society, and communities of the affected states have had to bear the brunt of the relief efforts and recovery themselves. Mr. Chairman, in conclusion, Sri Lanka firmly believes that the protection of persons in the event of disasters is a shared responsibility that transcends borders, guided by the principles set forth in the ILC's draft article. We must unite in our efforts, safeguarding the lives, livelihoods, and well-being of our global community. Together, I believe we can build a safer, more resilient world for current and future generations. Sri Lanka stands ready to engage in discussions within the working group on the protection of persons in the event of disasters. We look forward to fruitful deliberations ahead. Distinguished delegates, my appeal to you today is that we take courage. It is said that the brave soul can mend even disaster. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the statement, Mohan. We've heard the last speaker for this morning's session. Thank you, interpreters.